Hey everyone, this is Zephyr, with a massive update to the Baileywiki free module, the Baileywiki Maps Pack. Available now on the Foundry VTT module browser and the Forge Bazaar. The Baileywiki Maps Pack is a completely free module designed to highlight and showcase some of the various maps in the Baileywiki Premium Module family. It also showcases elements of the Baileywiki modular system, all here with complete maps for you to use for your games and take a look at to decide if you want to commit to further Baileywiki modules. To get the content, just install the module like you would any other from your Foundry VTT module add-on browser. Just search Baileywiki in the Filter Packages option, or you can go to the link in the description and in the card on screen now to visit the module page itself. In addition to installing the module, you'll need to install these several other dependencies. There are 3 required modules: Token Attacher, LibWrapper, and Scene Packer. Then we have highly recommended modules that are needed for various features, and they are Compendium Folders, Monk's Active Tile Triggers, Tagger, Wall Height, Better Roofs, and Levels. Then, if you are on D&D 5e, you can optionally install Quick Encounters for a few extra features. Once you've installed the content, you can import scenes by going into your Compendiums directory in the Baileywiki Maps Scenes Compendium, where you can import the entirety of the scenes, import subfolders for different types of scenes, or import entries manually and individually. You can scroll through here to see where all of the different scenes live. This is also going to be roughly the order in which we go through the new and remastered content. There's a lot to take a look at here, and as you can see, the folders are very helpful for navigating through this, and that is why we highly recommend Compendium folders. Also important is to import the Baileywiki Maps macros. These are needed for a few different items within the scenes to power a few special effects. You generally want to use import all content so that you have all of that. You'll also want to go into the active tile macros and import the redirect based on trigger method macro. There are a few Monk's Active Tile triggers that use this. Finally, there are the Baileywiki Maps prefabs, and these allow you to bring in whole buildings into a scene. You can drag an individual entry in from the compendium to import it to your world and put it directly on your scene. You can also import entire folders, and you can see that all of the walls come in place. Once you've imported a prefab, you want to drag it in from the actor's compendium afterwards. That way you're not importing multiple versions. You can use the same method if you import an entire folder of prefabs first. If you ever can't find one of the compendiums, check the default section of your compendiums directory. These maps all come with journal entries giving descriptions of the map and some other general information. There is a section discussing upgrades available for the different maps, modules that are being used, and a general overview of the map itself. So be sure to check these out if you want to know any extra information or need a quick reference when you're done watching this video and are actually using the maps. You can import these journal entries from the Baileywiki Maps Journal Entries Compendium, and they'll also come in with some of these maps. When using these maps, several of these maps are set up to use levels to have a 3-dimensional explorable map. You'll want to have your Levels UI open, and then you can move between the different levels. This is important when you are adjusting things on the scene to suit your tastes, or if you are trying to figure out what floor your players are on, it can be helpful to look for them through the Levels UI, rather than trying to see them with all of these overhead tiles. Again, we'll see that everything moves independently on each of the levels. You can only select things while you are on that level. It's also important, again, if you want to make any adjustments, such as tweaking lighting or adding in additional tiles or changing how a wall functions. Also within a few of the scenes are these interactive Monk's Active Tile triggers that are used for controlling GM options. These particular switches are on-click for GMs only, and they are designed so that we can change the background for this mansion scene. To activate one of these tiles, simply click on it, right-click, and then select this Manually Trigger Actions button. You'll see a visual confirmation that the tile was activated, and its effects will occur. So here we can see that some lights were enabled and background tiles were switched. In addition to using the manual activation option, you can have a token selected and then simply click on the tile, and you'll notice that its actions will occur. This only functions for GMs, so you don't need to worry about your players accidentally clicking the tile. This option exists just to be flexible for you, so use whatever you think works best for your workflow during a game. If you ever can't find a token, try refreshing your screen. Sometimes with levels, you might not actually be able to see a token that was on a different level. With that out of the way, let's start walking through the new maps. We're first looking at the Gothic Castle. This is a showcase of the modular castle system that's in the Baileywiki Premium Towns module. Each of these rooms is a prefab in that module, and we constructed this entire castle in a full 8 levels to have a really immersive and unique experience when exploring, and there are wall and floor pieces to be able to construct custom layouts. Within the scene, you'll also find quick encounters. If you're a D&D 5e user, then these will come preloaded with encounters using creatures from the 5e SRD. There's brief explanations or flavor text for them. When you run the encounter, these dust methods will pop up in predetermined locations. You don't need to move them around or anything. They're already set and ready to go. Throughout many of these maps, you'll notice different atmospheric effects, from lighting to sounds to these unique overhead tile mixtures to obscure and not obscure tokens as they travel through. And we make full use of Foundry version 9's lighting. Here you can get a sense of the overall layout, and we can take another look at some of the quick encounters. There are several on this level, and once again, when you open the journal entry, you can hit Run Quick Encounter, and it will automatically populate the monsters into predetermined spaces, and you can throw them into a combat immediately, and delete the tokens when you're done. To be able to see these, make sure that you have your journal pins turned on. Also on this map, we have a prefab, which is an organ that slides out of the way to reveal a hidden door. To get all of the prefabs for these rooms, check out the Baileywiki Premium Maps Towns module, as this is a flattened version. We have another castle for our next showcase, and this is Gnollspine Keep. This is a continuation of the modular castle system and includes many community submissions like this entry hall from Shafto. This contest was designed to let community members show off their chops with creating castle rooms and castle scenes. Shafto also contributed these class rooms that are meant for different party members. So this keep in its entirety is designed to be something of a player home. Traveling through, you can see that the modular castle system lends itself well not only to a horror setting, but also to something that is more well furnished. And again, these scenes are flattened versions of these modular town pieces, but you could recreate something like this with the modular town system. Exploring the entirety of the castle, we'll find several of these classrooms, including the rogues, that has a secret door leading to the rogue's real bedroom. And we'll also find different small pieces for these closets and bedrooms that just make sense for filling out a castle and taking up more of that negative space in a believable way and a way that really immerses people in the idea of this castle with a full staff. As we move between the levels, you'll notice that there are, again, Monk's active tile triggers that the player actually uses in order to move up and down. These are all on click and require the player character to be within a certain distance. Another community submission was Idiot Wizard's Treasury and Vault there. It's a beautiful piece, and there's an additional ruined version in the premium version of the module. This armory was made by community member Abominable Rob for the Modular Castle project, and here is another one of Idiot Wizard's submissions, The Jester's Quarters, which tells a great story. As we go through the hallways, we find a druid's room, and this is another Monk's active tile trigger area where we have a water splashing sound, and we'll see a lot more of that later. Going down a secret passage, we will find Idiot Wizard's final submission, which is this cursed sepulcher that looks darker and ruined where there's no light. Looking at the Monk's active tile triggers, we can see how they're configured a little bit, so you can use this as a template for your own maps. And basically we're filtering by distance and then teleporting to a tagged tile. So this is where tagger comes into play. And this movement tile is what is controlling those sounds as players walk through. In the premium version, this also connects to an underwater grotto by Elizarita that has multiple levels and a swimming capacity. Returning to the first floor, you can see this balcony is set up as an overhead tile, and that was how we were able to see the pillars beneath. And then we have another one of these teleports, but this one cares about the elevation of the tokens. It wants to make sure that the tokens are actually at the balcony level or above. And then on teleport, it is going to set their elevation to 0, because although this second floor is higher up, within the second floor scene, 0 is the elevation of the map. And the companion teleports that do the opposite. Now let's take a look at a remastered map. The Keep has been reimagined as a multi-level map. Rather than having several scenes, this is the first 3 levels of the Keep, all on a single scene, navigable via levels and Monk's active tile triggers. As we explore through it, you'll also notice that the lighting has been updated for Foundry version 9, and it really adds a great atmosphere to the Keep. Here we see another type of on-click teleport that is going to move us up and also move our position. So we have something that is tied to us being close enough to click, and it will change our elevation, but it will maintain a position relative to those stairs. Going into the guest quarters, you can see this room, and the GM just made a quick change, and now when we go back in, the fireplace is out and we see a gruesome murder mystery here. And that is something also powered by Monk's active tile triggers. And we'll show that off in just a moment. We also make use of level stairs that will automatically change elevation without the player having to click anything. And that is how we transition between the second and third floors. The Keep is a great piece for if the players need to meet a noble house or a representative of some sort and visit perhaps a ball or other formal occasion, and perhaps there's some drama that occurs there. It also works well as a player home. As this is multi-level, we can use the Levels UI to navigate between the levels as a GM, and we can see our different triggers to go up and down with the stairs. And we can see we have this murder scene set to hidden, and if we are going to flip between that, we will just need to activate this trigger right here. And this is indicating that green shows that the murder mystery is on, and we'll notice that the light is now off. And although it's difficult to tell for a GM on an overhead tile, it is set to hidden. And we can manually trigger it again to turn it back off. Here we have the Magic Dungeon. This is the latest addition to the Baileywiki Cabal Dungeon module. The Cabal Dungeon module was originally a community project for taking the modular town concept and applying it to dungeons with small pieces that could be connected to create any layout of a dungeon that you need. The Magic Dungeon is the latest piece that Baileywiki has created and really highlights the Foundry version 9 lighting. This one mega dungeon scene is an example of several key pieces and features within the Magic Dungeon tileset. In the premium version, there are several connecting scenes that loop together, as well as prefabs that can be placed to build your own version of the Magic Dungeon. Again, there's a huge emphasis on lighting and the atmospheric qualities you can achieve with Foundry version 9's lighting. And we see some really unique and powerful tools with walling off, how light passes through different areas, and the different effects that can be achieved with Foundry version 9 that previously could only be done via modules like Token Magic FX and FX Master. And here we can get a good view of the entire layout. A perfect place for a boss battle. Another remaster is the Mansion. This one has been reimagined as a multi-level scene as well, with all 3 levels of the mansion in place. And we're going to use those clickable stairs and ladders to move up and down between levels, while also moving our position to logical places for the top and bottom of stairs. This is another map that, while not designed for Foundry version 9, as it's an older map, it really comes to life with the new lighting for Foundry version 9. And we have plenty of secrets around the mansion for you and your players to explore. You'll notice that there are a lot of different rooms here. In the premium version, there's also access to alternate rooms that can be swapped around for you. So you can really customize this and make it a great player home or a unique location for a quest. Notice that there are holes that allow us to see down from the balconies to see our acolyte and peddler friends down there. And there is sound design throughout the home. Another really key feature is previously there was a pocket dimension version of the mansion. Rather than keeping those as 2 separate scenes, we've reimagined it as a single structure that can then be swapped using these Monk's active tile triggers. And here when we manually activate it, you'll notice a small chime indicating it's been activated, as well as the tile itself flashing briefly. And that's how we can switch between this grass terrain and this astral or pocket dimension terrain. So you can be flexible with it, whether it's the same mansion being teleported or it is a different mansion altogether. Our next remastered scene is the Galleon. This is now a multi-level scene using, again, levels, better roofs, and wall height. And we'll now have elevators that allow us to climb up onto the main masts and the crow's nest to look down on the rest of the deck. And so now, rather than this being an arrayed scene where we have each deck of the Galleon separated out and tokens are moving between the 2, we're just changing elevation so that we're moving up and down in space as if we would if this was a real 3-dimensional model of the Galleon. And this particular scene relies more heavily on the levels drawings for automatic movement as players navigate to logical places for their elevation to go up and down. See, there is a plethora of crew quarters and different details throughout the scene. And there are holes that go between the different levels to allow an immersive look of where things will be and where tokens are at. Using our Levels UI, not only can we navigate between the different levels of the Galleon, but we can also take a look at those drawings that are paneling the elevation. There are elevators to allow the selection of height for the masts, and stair drawings to automatically move up and down one elevation level. Our next map is another new addition, and it is the Hideout. This is the Poacher's Hideout, which is a cave system connected to a kind of underground lair for some villains of some description. Again, this particular one is flavored around poachers, and if you are a 5e user, you'll have access to some quick encounters. Regardless of what system you're on, there is this secret door that is activated via Monk's active tile triggers that opens and closes on activation and plays a sound. There's also a journal note here that describes perhaps puzzles you want to run for the players to open the door, and you can just activate the tile again to reset the door. Continuing through the rest of the hideout, we have this subterranean structure with bunks, etc., and we'll notice those red journal entries for quick encounters again. We navigate through. There is a lot of different storytelling that can be done here. There's animal cages, etc. And there is a color coding system to these quick encounters. And if you open up any of the quick encounters, you'll notice that there is a pretty substantial amount of context and story prompt ideas that you can use or make your own story, etc. So this has a pretty loose guideline of an adventure for you to run if you so choose. Our next remastered scene is the Farmhouse Harvest from the Town module. This has been reimagined from an arrayed scene to a single area where players are navigating up and down in vertical space. And we can again see those clickable ladders and stairs coming into play for altering elevation while maintaining logical positioning within the map. And there are several rooms here to explore and take a look at, with some very nice effects offered by walls and lighting. Another one of the maps that really comes to life and looks extra warm and cheery with the new Foundry version 9 lighting. And we'll notice that we are making use of the level's basement tile feature, where these basement tiles don't necessarily fit directly underneath the footprint of the house, etc., but they're not visible when you're not actually in the basement. We also have the barn here, which again features the clickable ladders. And then something a little special with the hole. This is an actual working hole so that if you jump off of the walkway, your elevation is changed to match the floor. Once again, we can use our Levels UI to go between the different levels, and we can take a look at what exactly makes these active tile triggers tick. And we can see that only tiles that are at the height of the walkway will drop there. And we'll notice that when we're on the ground floor, unfortunately those basement tiles show, but they won't show to your players as we just saw when they're navigating the map. So just keep that in mind as you are looking through this as a GM. New and remastered for the free module is the Holy Church. And this is another multi-level map where we have several floors of this church that include a hole so that you can see down from the balcony into the sanctuary, and different levels drawings to be able to move between the various heights within the space and explore the church as a whole. There's some great pieces with the different aspects of elevation and sight lines here. And we get to see a lot of the cool interplay with having these three-dimensional maps and the height that it brings. Traveling down into the basement, Foundry's version 9 lighting once again adds a really nice atmosphere to spaces. And when we enter into the crypt, we'll notice that we have some different caskets and sarcophagi, and a few secret doors leading to extra areas within the church basement. And we can head back up the same stairs that we entered from and explore the rest of the building. This particular map is a really great example of combining vertical exploration along with lateral exploration, as there are multiple areas that, while being at the same height, aren't accessible to each other from that same level. Once again, we have the levels enabled scene. So our levels UI is our best friend for being able to navigate between the different floors. We'll also notice that we have these optional tiles to slot in to change out the themes and motifs for the secret rooms down in the crypt. If you want to move the old ones out of the way, you might need to move the crypt tile itself out. And here you can see walls that you might want to make adjustments to if you want to make a wall solid or a door secret or not. Drawings power most of the elevation in this, but we do have a few of those clickable elements for the ladder up top, and we can see all of the different roof pieces. And once again, if you want to use these active tile triggers as a template for your own maps, you can check those out here. Next up, we have the city, the East Gate, and this was an example for an expansion on the modular town system and includes things like these towers, which are these really beautiful multi-story buildings that can be dropped in ready to go onto multiple maps. Also within the tower is another Monk's active tile trigger. This one opens and closes the portcullis. So you can actually use this in conjunction with, say, making the portcullis locked so that someone has to open it. And you can have an interesting encounter with your players fighting to open the gate for the rest of the party or for perhaps an army or other group of allies. Again, if we use our levels UI, we can take a look at each level of the towers. And again, in the premium towns module, these are available as fully deployable 5-story towers to drop into any map. I also want to point out that while this looks like one solid scene and one solid background image, each of these itself is a tile that was dragged in. And here we're going to the modular docks coastal. And this is a showcase similar to the City East Gate, where we are exploring a dock that has been placed using a bunch of modular elements and then flattened into a single scene to make a custom dock for any of the ships that you want your party to be encountering or using. And it's just a great example of a way to use modular elements to design scenes and maps for your players. And we see another one of these towers, this time a lighthouse, where we can explore all the way up to the top and view this beautiful tower that is also deployable in the premium version of the module. And we can get a sense again that all of these pieces are modular. They're all deployed individually and then flattened into a single scene, allowing for incredible flexibility as we design maps and scenes for our games. Zoom in and take a look at the lighthouse levels in detail here, and see how all of that functions. Returning to the city, we have the city street. This is kind of a shopping district, and we'll see that there are a few different shops, such as this magic vendor with their back room and an extra back room that has a little bit of a secret spot. And then we can go through like the main hallway of the building to get up to the apartments and living quarters of the people who live in this particular building. Maybe it's some of the shopkeepers, maybe it's other citizens of the city. And this is an example of some of the really modular town buildings that are available. And with this, we're able to create custom floors and layouts using different pieces and then put them together into single deployable buildings to make really complex but easy to reproduce structures. You can see that there is a variety of shops in here, and we can head across the street to take a look at some of the other buildings. You can get a quick peek in there. You can see this balcony disappears as we move underneath it. Another great feature of levels and better roofs. Heading into this garden, which is actually originally a part of the Modular Castle system, so you can mix and match a bit of modular castles and modular towns and still have a really great effect. You can go through these kitchens for this tavern and explore the building a little further. You may recognize a couple of these spaces as being similar to the ones in the castles. And again, just highlighting how they can interplay beautifully this modular floor system for urban settings and the modular castles systems. And every town needs a good tavern, so here we have a pretty expansive one with all kinds of rooms for our party. Also outside is a facade of the church. You'll notice that if we click on this door, our token is teleported and is now on the church scene. Note that if your players click on this, they will actually go view that scene automatically. However, you as a GM will not be moved with the token if you click on it. We can again go through these different floors and see the different pieces, and you can kind of get a sense of how these building blocks fit together to create these really robust and really flexible different buildings and this system that we have created. Here we have another town scene, and this is a desert market. And this includes some other samples from Abominable Rob, who made this patisserie and outhouse. And then we have another piece from Shafto, and this is a beautiful bathhouse that has some great sound design in it with babbling brooks and really nice lighting effects, again, courtesy of Foundry version 9. And we hear some of this water walking and the wading through the pools again. And we can explore the rest of these buildings. We'll notice that these roofs are different from other town buildings that we may have seen. If you've not seen the town scenes, then take a look towards the end of this video and you can compare the two, but these roofs are different. And with the Premium Towns module, we're actually able to swap between the desert roofs and the temperate roofs and snowy roofs, all using multi-phase tiles to swap between the different versions. So that adds a lot of flexibility and a lot of utility to each individual building. And here we can see the scene laid out in its entirety with multiple different buildings and the various desert-themed roofs. Another reimagined scene. Here we have the Tavern Yawning scene. So we have this big gaping hole that howls with wind as we approach. And a pretty cheery and nice tavern here as we navigate around. And we can actually take the stairs up to the upper level and explore on the balcony and go through the different rooms. So this scene is once again changed from being a multi-scene map to being a single scene explorable in 3 dimensions using levels, better roofs, and wall height. You can see that there are a lot of places to explore and a lot of logical pieces here. You've got the back room where you could find either shady dealings going on, or you could head back here to the storeroom and uncover perhaps a poisoning attempt or something similar. There is a lot of options for storytelling within taverns like this, which is one of the reasons why they're so fun to make maps for. It's because there's an amazing amount of things you can do with the Tavern. As we explore and go past these different cheery fires, we can then go down the other side of the balcony and conclude our tour of the Tavern. And once again, with levels, we can use the UI to switch between which level we are viewing when we're a GM and identify where these different stairs and the hole is. That allows us to see between the two levels and see patrons at tables below us when we're up on the balcony. The Baileywiki modular system isn't just for urban settings. Here we can see some flattened wilderness maps that were created, and we have a jungle piece, a swamp piece that has a lot of different sound design going on, including that water walking and hearing sloshes as you step between. We can see the faded out version of the tile as a GM, but it would be completely invisible for players. And this adds a nice level of immersion as we move through it. And all of these clusters of trees, these islands, these rocks, these lily pads, and like algae blooms, those are all deployable to create your own swamp and can be mixed and matched between different wilderness aesthetics. We have some dead trees that are a part of more of the temperate set of wilderness assets, but they play beautifully with these swamp assets, and the jungle assets also work very well together. So in these flattened wilderness scenes, we can see the flexibility of these modular wilderness assets. Monk's active tile triggers rounds out the water movement once again. And with this final wilderness scene, that concludes the new scenes added to the free module. So here is a quick look at the older scenes updated for Foundry version 9 lighting and organized by folder. This concludes the walkthrough of the Baileywiki Maps Pack, available right now on the Foundry VTT module browser and the Forge Bazaar. I hope that this video has been helpful to you for seeing the different pieces of the maps. If you ever have any questions or problems, please visit us on the Baileywiki Discord channel, and send us a message and we'll be happy to take a look and get anything resolved for you. If you're interested in checking out the premium versions of the modules, please visit us on Patreon. The link is in the description and in all of the journal entries for the module. Thanks again for watching, and have a good one.